What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 12 of Spoiler Alerts. I'm ChanManV. He's Ellohime, he's Eat My Diction, and we are continuing... Well, actually, before we do our spoiler... Well, we're continuing Black Mirror at Season 3 this week, since we did Season 1 and 2 weeks ago. But before we get started, how are you guys doing, man? I haven't talked to you guys in 2 weeks.
I'm great, man. How are you?
Good.
I'm trying to get my volume. I'm trying to get my volume right. Like for some reason when you started, you just like your voice like plummeted, and I'm trying to figure it out right now.
Oh, did it really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't think it has to do anything with you. I think I nudged the volume thing. But I'm doing great. I am awesome. Just came back from Vegas last week from the Champions of Fire Amazon event where we did like mobile game esports, which was actually incredibly fun.
What games did y'all play?
We played Crossy Roads. We played a new Fruit Ninja Tournament Edition. We
did
Bloons Tower Defense.
Oh my God, it's old. This is like serious old school marathon.
Yeah, 8-ball. And what was the last one? Oh, Pac-Man 256, which is actually really fun. Wow. Yeah, it's like it's like a beefed up Pac-Man, but they really I don't know how to explain it. It's very much it very much harkens to the original in a lot of ways, but it's got like different power-ups and stuff like that. But it's a lot of fun. But we all went kind of head to head, and we faced off in like a bracket, like tournament style.
Right.
And it was actually pretty successful. Like a lot of people liked it, and it was fun because it was more of like a casual esports than like a serious competition.
Yeah, of course.
So we were having fun, and we were just kind of all being ourselves, and our personalities and stuff, and it was awesome. And it's going to air on CBS Sports.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
In 4 days. Yeah, on the 12th. Yeah,
we're going to be on CBS Sports. Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So I just came back from there. So Vegas was fun, but it was fucking nuts. And I've just been streaming since I got back. I had bronchitis though.
Dude, you and Diction must be like making out or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Partially why I look like absolute ass right now.
I thought you looked beautiful.
I did too.
Oh, thank you.
You're beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Wait, do you have bronchitis or are you just sick?
No, I got like a cold.
Oh, that sucks.
It's like the worst in the mornings. Like as the day goes on, I feel better and better. But then once I go to sleep and then wake up in the morning, it's like I'm back to being like fucking just completely wiped out.
Oh man, the mornings always the worst, man.
I don't know how to tell you this, Diction, but you might be pregnant.
I have been craving ice cream and throwing up a lot.
Oh wow.
If you've got mornings, have you had unprotected sex with any other men?
Not that I know of.
Have you watched the movie Twins?
No, more than usual.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Oh God.
Jesus. So what have you been up to, Chan, man?
Just been doing the shows and getting I got some special episodes for some of my shows coming up in December, but it seems like December has a million esport events, so it's been a challenge trying to get that together. But looking forward to Star Wars in a week. I can't wait for that. I can't wait for actually when we talk about it too. Exactly.
Shit, I forgot about that.
That's like in a week. How could you forget about that?
I'll have to figure out how to get tickets to it.
Oh, I know, right?
I'm sure the Thursday night's probably sold out by now.
Yeah, probably. And so it's already out in Europe, right? Europe always gets this shit like a week before us, so it's like
bunch of assholes over there.
I know, and spoiler, it's all over the place, pretty much. We could probably talk about the movie before we even see it, given how it is. I'm just gonna.
If we really wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. I have to be really good about not looking at those posts. But anyways, this week, guys, going to continue our Black Mirror marathon here, season 3 again. And just a disclaimer, if you guys have not watched Black Mirror and want to watch them and not have anything spoiled, then you should turn the volume off right now, because we're just going to be talking about everything and everything.
Just look at our faces.
Exactly. Just look at our faces. Yeah. Read our lips.
Yeah,
don't read our lips.
Leave the stream on, but just turn the volume off. Right. You'll be fine. Yeah. It'll be just as entertaining. We promise.
Totally. So what we'll do is similar to what we did last week. Just kind of go through episode by episode, and if you guys want to join in the conversation, because I know a lot of you had a ton of opinions on just what we talked about last week, and folks seem to really love the Christmas episode too. So we'll be talking about that one. Go ahead and join our Discord channel that we have. It's this link right here. Let me send it to you in chat. And Monkey Overlord's going to be waiting in there, taking potential callers. And at the end of the show, we'll get you guys in here. You guys can talk to us. Actually talk to us. Not, be interactive with us.
Voices.
I know. We're
Shit.
interactive. That's beyond Twitch chat. It's amazing. Okay, so let's start with the Christmas episode. So, all right,
You want to start with the Christmas? Yeah, you want to start with the Christmas episode. I'm like, let's do the Christmas episode at the end, because the Christmas episode.
Oh, you want to do it at the end? We can do it at the end.
No. We can do it now. But this one is like the one that like scares me the most.
It's
like
the most fucked up, I feel like.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Not like fucked up, like fucking a pig fucked up, like just like the pathos at the end of it is just so heavy, man. It's just so fucking heavy.
Yeah. So I guess so. How should we describe the episode first and maybe walk through how it goes, and then maybe dive into each part?
Yeah, it's so multi.
I know there's like a lot of stuff going on in it.
Yeah.
But I guess the general premise though is that at least the episode starts off with let's see, which character does it start? It starts off with
They're in the shack in wherever in the nowhere place.
Yeah, it starts off with a
shack?
conversation between is it John Hamm? I forget.
Yeah,
John Hamm.
it's John Hamm.
John
and then
Hamm's
the-
character.
Yeah.
And the other gentleman.
Oh, right. In
And-
the house. Right.
Yeah, and it doesn't give you any kind of context clues really as to why they're there. It seems like they're there for some sort of job or something. But it kind of starts there, and John Hamm kind of tells his story first as to why, he is where he is in that cabin with this other dude. And then obviously it goes into his backstory, and it goes into the what was it? He was helping a dude date. He was like
a pickup artist.
Yeah, it's like in those like
Pickup
shitty
artist,
episodes on like sitcoms where they like, I'll be in your ear.
Oh, that's right.
I'll feed you all the lines, and you do.
Right.
But that's what they really do. And then the guy ends up going on this date, finding this girl, and then she poisons the dude, kills him, and then kills herself. It's like ritual suicide and a murder. And then John Hamm's character, who's in the earpiece watching this, along with other people too, like some other buddies, they're watching this, and they see the murder happen, and then he hides all the shit, so he gets pretty much in trouble for that. But it's what's his job is what's most disturbing to me.
Yeah.
His job is basically, if you've seen like something like the Amazon Echo, like Alexa or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like iHome type of thing. Yeah.
It basically
but super personalized.
Yeah, super personalized. Because what they do is they go into your brain. You go in for a surgery, right? Like if I wanted to have this procedure, I would go into the surgery, and they would like extract me, like a digital form of me, and put it in a little egg thing, right? So it's in the little egg thing, and it's like it is you and everything that you are. It's like your consciousness in this little egg thing, but it's not you. It's not you. It's like
a copy of you. It's like a digitalized copy of you, basically. Yeah.
And then when that happens, what he does, his job is to set that person up to run the household. Because who would know better than to how to run your household than you?
It's
Like, what temperatures you like, what kind of toast you like, the food, coffee, all that stuff.
Yeah, and then it ends up just kind of spiraling into all sorts of shit from there. It gets really, really, really crazy. And I think the craziest thing about it is the time manipulation. So, of course, it's a copy of you. You as a person is going to be reluctant to be in this new environment. You still think you're you, but you're not. You're just, a copy of you, and you're looking at you in your own house, walking around, doing all the things you're doing. And so like, it's the woman in the middle. It's the actually she's in Game of Thrones as well. It's Rob Stark's wife. I forget the actress name. She decides that she doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to be in this existence. So he's like, okay, well, let me see how you feel in a month. And then he just like sets the clock ahead for a month. He waits like 10 seconds and then he comes back to her and she's like sitting there, you know, just like, oh my God.
Disheveled. Exactly.
Yeah. She's like, it's been 30 days time for her, like a straight 30 days of this woman, nothing to do. So he's like, well, do you want to work now? You know, like, do you want to work now? Because there's nothing else to do. And of course she submits and everything. But there's a really cool scene when this happens. It's like a little clever side thing. And he mentions that, like, somebody asked him, like, what happens if they don't submit? Like, what happens if they really just don't submit? They just don't give in. He's like, oh, they end up in some video game somewhere in some war game. So, like, in this universe, like, people, like, consciousness of people are now being used in war games.
Well, wouldn't that be an interesting AI to fight against? You know,
that would
like,
be. That would be. That would be a great one.
Afraid for their lives, like.
It's
so messed up.
It's really, really messed up. But anyways, it goes on. The episode goes on this is just like John Hamm trying to kind of build a rapport with this guy in this shack, you know. And so then the other guy goes into his story. This is kind of more of a synopsis than a talking about it. But anyways, it goes into this guy and his relationship with this girl and how it didn't work out and all this stuff. But there's this thing in this world, and every episode of Black Mirror, for those of you who don't know, kind of deals with the different sort of sci-fi theme, but all surrounded by technology that's familiar to us. And in this episode, it's about like ignoring people or blocking people, right? So that's one of the things. And one of the crazy things about it is in this show, like, let's say that you guys piss me off on Facebook. In our world, I would just block you and I couldn't see you on Facebook, right? But they actually have a way to block people from your life. If I thought Diction, I didn't want to be around Diction, I didn't want to see Diction, I could push a button.
I just
and
have
literally,
a cold, man.
Jesus Christ. See, and this is why, because you're cutting me off. I push a button and it just totally makes Diction just like a white pitch, like just person.
I bet I could do it. I bet I could do it. Let me see if I can do it to myself here. Let's see if I can do it to myself with some of these effects. Wait, where is it?
Use a filter. Use a sick filter, bro.
So basically, this poor guy.
No, dang it! Nah,
you can mess with that. I'll keep going.
Keep going.
This poor guy, like, he falls in love with this girl. This girl gets pregnant with a kid, you know, and then she tells him about that she's pregnant, that she's not necessarily ready to keep the kid, whatever. He says, he's all like, I love you, I'm ready to do this, all this stuff. And she's so distraught, and she ends up blocking him. Now, when she blocks him, that means their offspring is blocked to him too. So he doesn't ever get to see his like girlfriend again, his ex-girlfriend. Now she's blocked. He can't do anything. You can see like a silhouette, but she drives away and leaves him behind. So he gets obsessed with her. Like he gets obsessed with following her and seeing what she's doing and keeping up with her, because this is his kid too. You know, he's never going to get to see his kid, and all he sees is the silhouette of his kid, right? And it's really, really emotional, really powerful, because he never gets to see his kid. And then years go by, you know, and he ritualistically every Christmas, and that's why it's a Christmas episode, goes back to try to see her at her dad's cabin, and he like spies on them from the distance, right? And eventually she dies. He finds out that she dies through like a news station while he's at home. And he's like, oh my God, now that she's dead, the block is removed, I can go see my daughter. And he goes to see his daughter, and it's revealed that his daughter is actually of Asian descent. And it's his best friend. Yeah. Because she cheated on him with his best friend, right? So this guy sees this little girl, this Asian girl, who clearly isn't his daughter. He's been following her for like 5 years, thinking that she is his daughter. And then
every Christmas and stuff.
Leaving her presents, everything. And then he just loses it, ends up killing the father, and then leaves the girl in the house.
No, the grandfather. He kills
the grandfather. Yeah, her father. The little girl's grandfather, his girlfriend's father. Yes.
Yeah.
And ends up leaving the little girl in the home, and the little girl eventually dies as well, because she tries to go get help in the snow alone and ends up freezing to death. So it's a crazy story, but the craziest part of this is it's all an interrogation scene.
Yeah,
like it's all an interrogation.
It's all about breaking him down and getting him to admit this crime that he committed.
Yeah.
And it's all the setting for what's crazy is the setting is actually in the house, but he doesn't realize. I guess the guy just doesn't realize
Yeah,
he's
it's like
in
the
the house
kitchen's
the entire.
it's just the kitchen with like 2 little rooms, but like
Yeah.
the kitchen is exactly the same as the house where he murdered the grandfather.
Yeah, and the whole thing is like it's an interrogation, but it's an interrogation using that system that Ella was talking about that John Hamm has, which is they had his copy of himself in this little egg, and John Hamm's in there, breaking him down or trying to get him to admit it because he doesn't realize that, right? So
get a confession.
Yeah, exactly, get a confession, and in the end they get one, right? And which is like, oh yeah, that's definitely great, and obviously that guy's going to be punished for it. But then you realize that John Hamm's story was actually true too. And, like him actually trying to break down this witness was a part of some kind of plea bargain or whatnot that he would arrange with the government to, I guess, not go to jail also. But then his penalty is that everybody is blocked. So I'm not sure how good of a bargain that really was.
This is one of those episodes where nobody wins.
Exactly. Nobody wins.
There's no happy ending, no silver lining whatsoever. And then that fucking douchebag cop's like, I'm going to set the egg to 1,000 or 10,000 years or some shit like that. And he just like sets it and lets it go. And the poor guy's copy is stuck there listening to this stupid Christmas song over and over again for basically eternity.
Yeah, and it's I guess again when it comes to Black Mirror, I guess the scariest thing is like the implications of all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like it's always creepy because it's only like a few steps away, or at least it feels that way. And I guess the craziest thing is I can remember times where I've been in arguments with my exes before, and I can't imagine how infuriating it must be to have somebody just like block you,
Yeah.
Like blocking you must be like the worst fucking thing in the world. And then on top of that, to have like your conscious to be able to like get a confession out of your consciousness, like there's so many things about this episode that are so fucked up. Like, and the fact that he's almost like a sexual offender afterwards, and he's like he's red marked. Like he's red marked. Like everybody sees him as just a red blur. Like everybody in society, he's basically out in the world alone.
Oh, and on top of not being able to see them, you also can't hear them. It's just all muffled words. Like you can't. So he has to spend the rest of his life not being able to communicate with anybody. Basically, like he's alone in the world essentially.
Yeah, and it's
like, how does he go to the shopping? Like, how does he go to like shopping and shit if he can't like discuss transactions with people, ask questions?
Well, you can
do all online shopping. I guess.
Oh,
Silk Road,
that's
underground
true.
internet.
Silk Road,
underground internet. You have to get his groceries from the dark net.
Well, there's that new Google groceries thing that you could probably do now too. That he'd probably have to do.
I'm sure they've got some system, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was probably the craziest episode out of everything. I mean, that's hard to say for Black Mirror, but for me, it was just so multi-layered, and there's so many fucked up things that happen in it. Yeah. Just the idea of having yourself as a little slave in like a technology box that you can just punish anytime you want. Like if they get out of line. I mean, like the guy said it's literally like 5 minutes our time, but for them it's like, 10 years or something, sitting in the same room, listening to the same radio station, listening to the same thing, and that's just like an overnight, way. It's just, it's insane, but it's not really you, it's not
so
really
that's the biggest question is that is a digital copy of your pathos or just your I guess your being, is that actually considered a being? You know what I mean? Like if you torture this thing, is it actually
it's a simulation at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's
so
just a self-aware simulation, I guess.
Well, let's save that question for one of the other episodes here, because that comes up again. It comes up a few times.
Yeah, exactly. We've seen this particular thing 3 times, I think. And even this whole type of I don't know, punishment or interrogation, or just how I get the law enforcement works. I mean, we kind of saw it with the episode in season 2, right? With the girl who just has the never-ending loop, right, for her punishment. So it's kind of it's similar in some ways, but that's actually her though. That's not actually a copy of her.
I think this is definitely my favorite episode out of all of them, though.
Yeah,
just because it's like Monkey Overlord said in the chat, it's like 3 episodes in one.
Yeah.
Like with great pacing. Like I couldn't say it any better than what Monkey said.
It's John Hamm too. It's like John Hamm's awesome.
John Hamm's awesome.
all these guys do really well actually, but John Hamm definitely steals the show on this episode. But I guess it's, you know, it's just that the technology, it's almost like that Interstellar kind of feeling, you know, like where, you know, you can go to this planet, down to this planet, not to spoil Interstellar for anybody. Hey, it's spoiler alert. But like, you know, you go down to the planet and it's like just 5 minutes, but you come back up and like 30 years has gone by. It's not time travel. It's just time relativity, you know?
Yep.
That is so incredibly scary to me that you could like punish somebody through technology. Like, I can just put you in this chamber and it'll feel like 30 years go by for you. But for me, it's just been 10 minutes. You know, like that is so fucking scary. And I hope we never get to that point, because that sounds like the worst punishment in the world, to sit in like a white room all by yourself for that long. And, you know, for them, it's like whatever. It's like, you know, like they're basically gods, you know, like they live in the real world, not in this fantasy world. But overall, I thought it was probably the best episode from all the series. It's my favorite because it's just so much packed into one. It's so seamless. The scenes are shot very well. It reveals itself to you, you know, and the secrets of the episode to you in a great manner. Like, it's not all at once. You're constantly thinking. It's changing the game throughout the episode, and it just feels it feels satisfying in the end because you get it by the end, everything, you can understand everything and it all makes sense. But also it leaves you again with that Black Mirror feeling where you're just like, oh shit, man, this is frightening, you know? But I don't know what more to say about it really myself. But I loved it. I think it's a very strong episode, and I think it has it fits right in with everything else. And this wasn't even in a series. This was just like a Christmas special.
It was a one-off, and that was like during the time when they weren't sure if they're gonna get a season 3 from the BBC. So that's probably why it was so good, because they're like,
exactly.
well, fuck it, let's just like
go
all out if this is gonna be the last episode.
That's right. Or we have to get a new season, so let's make this one a really good one, or let's pick the best one out of all of them.
Yep. And I also think I have to say something too about the setting. It didn't look like it took a lot to film either. It's not like they had to go on location or anything. A lot of the places were reused and are used, like the you know, like the hut, you know, or the shack that they're in, you know. Like, a lot of it is filmed in only like what, 4 or 5 locations really. I mean, they have a few one-off shots when he like walks out into, you know, the marketplace after he gets blocked and stuff. But for the most part, I don't think that it was like complicated as far as setting is concerned, you know. So they did a lot and they didn't really go very many places, you know, which I thought was super cool. So anyways.
Yeah. Didn't require much investment, I guess, is what you're saying. But yeah, I think it's one of the best too. I think it's the best written one for sure. Just with the complexity, you know, just with all the complexity, the way they, you know, the way they just start the entire episode and then have a twist in it, and then actually have like kind of a double twist to it, right? Because even the ending has its own little twist where he's blocked too. Because you know, once he does get the confession, you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, you know, this was all just, even his story was just a lie, right? Just to set the guy up, or just to really get the guy to trust him or whatnot. But then you're like, wait, this is actually true too, right? That whole thing about the guy that he was coaching and getting killed and whatnot. I mean, oh shit, that was actually true too. And so it all came together that way. So yeah, I think it was the best written one for sure.
Did you guys see anything bad happening to the dude he was coaching? Did you guys see something bad happening?
Oh,
I mean, we all kind of knew something bad was going to happen, but like, did you expect that?
Not that fucked up, no.
Yeah, not to that extent, but I knew he was going to either get killed or be tortured in some very, very painful way. But I didn't think it would be that whole thing, basically a double, a murder-suicide situation.
It's like, I have a hard time being surprised when I watch things. Like, I really do.
Yeah,
I've watched so many things that a lot of things are very predictable. And man, there were so many points in this that I just didn't know what was coming up.
Yeah. Like,
it was just like, I don't know where this roller coaster ride's taking. So I was like, you just gotta like let go of the wheel, and Jesus, you take the wheel. You
Jesus,
where we're going. You know,
wow.
We're on a ride, and I don't know where this is going. And I spent the whole time trying to figure it out, you know, like trying to get it and trying to put it all together. And then at the end of it, I was like, well, fuck all my theories.
It's one of those episodes that's great to watch twice too. You should
Yes.
watch it twice if you didn't, because you always miss a few things in the beginning, especially when you know what happens at the end, and then you start to appreciate all the little things, little hints they give you that you may not have caught as you were watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to the first episode.
Here we go. Nosedive. All right, so this is episode
Nosedive.
1. Yeah, and this is the one with the Bryce Howard, who
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah, Bryce Dallas Howard, who's playing a character, or she's playing a character in a world that's actually not that far off from the world that we live in, right? With just the whole upvoting system, just Twitter and following, just followers, and same with Instagram and whatnot. But she's in a world that basically where you as an individual have a rating, and that rating is determined by everybody else around you. It's totally a popular type of rating. So, if you talk to
Everyone's
somebody,
super fake to each other.
Exactly.
And kind, and yeah, no one gets mad at each other. At least not in. I like how it's always in public, but when she goes home to her brother, she's just like super normal, and like she kind of like lets her guard down with him, and they're they have like a brother sister relationship.
Yeah, and what's interesting about the world too is that your rating determines what type of benefits you get in life or in the world too. And one example is just an airplane ticket. If she didn't have a certain rating, she wouldn't qualify for a certain flight. And it sounded like it wasn't like a crazy first class, business class flight. It was just like another flight. If her flight gets canceled and just getting on another flight, she has to be 4.3 or 4.2. And in the episode, she was just below it, right? And that's kind of what starts this whole nosedive thing. But the world is a very interesting thing. It's not that unsimilar to, again, like what I think a lot of folks do when they're just looking at their Twitter feed and they like something or they don't like something.
Think about like your credit score.
Yeah, it's like your credit
It's
score.
almost like it's almost like a credit
Yeah.
score. It's like an advanced like social media credit score. Is really kind of how it is. But the one thing I didn't like, this is my least favorite episode out of all of them.
Really?
And the reason is because I didn't think there was any like there isn't any single truth that we learn from this. Like there's nothing that we really learn from this episode, right? Like most episodes that we can watch with Black Mirror, there's always like a fundamental truth, right? Or there's something that they're wanting to show to us. I guess in this one, it's like, be careful, we could be rating each other too much or something, maybe. But at the end of it, there's no redeeming quality to this girl. This is the most unlikable character in all of the episodes.
Well,
and the reason is
she has her moment of catharsis where she finally lets go, and like the truck driver lady basically describes her like, I was finally happy when I stopped giving a shit about this rating.
But she's not happy at the end of this. She's not happy. There's no happy ending of this. She just goes fucking nuts.
No, it's what do you call it? It's an ambiguous ending. You fill in the gaps after it cuts,
She just looked like see, I didn't like that. It didn't show like any like her sitting at the side of the road with like a can of food, like smiling to herself or anything like that. Like it only looked like, I mean, that's the impression we're supposed to get. But really what I saw and what I felt like was she did all this stuff to be superficial. She gets, fucked over trying to get over to her friends. It's all like it's all heavy handed and we all get it. Okay. Her rating's going down. We see where it's going. But, at the end of it, I thought when she goes to the wedding and she goes and she shows up there, that there's going to be some moment of inspiration, right? Some moment of clarity, some moment where she's like sitting in front of everybody. And she just, again, like we talked about, like she drops her guard, she's sick of society, and then she just really gives it to him and really opens perspective. Now she could have walked out of there and everybody thinks she's crazy, but she would feel justified, and then like at least a few people, but not everybody, like saw the truth in what she said. And you almost get that, at the end of the episode, because she starts to say something, you hear a few people go woo, like something that she said, she's like right, and she starts going, and then she just turns into a blathering lunatic. Like it's like she just turns into a lunatic. There's no redeeming quality at the end of it. It's not like we learn anything. We just basically watched a story of a girl go fucking crazy in a world where everybody has the tools to judge her and change her life. Like that's really all we saw. Like I would like to think that yes, with the truck driver, that afterwards we can fill in the gap and go, well, she went and led a happy life because she realized that happiness is inside and who you are, and not what everybody thinks of you. But that's not really what it left us with. I mean, we can view it that way, I guess. If we want to.
Okay, so
why does the top have to stop spinning at the end of Inception?
Right, exactly. I mean, for me,
it was never supposed to be. There's never supposed to be a real ending to that movie.
Well, I mean,
there's never supposed
So,
to be
so
real
this
ending.
episode.
you're assuming that Inception is a good movie. I'm
I'm not saying it's a good movie. I'm just saying it had a good ending. That's all.
you don't have to
Yeah.
impress me, Diction. Okay, you don't have to.
I actually disagree with you. I don't actually
Okay,
think this
that's fine.
episode's that bad. I think the premise it sets and you're right. I mean, they could have made that scene at the wedding a little bit more powerful, but the whole episode is really about her being this superficial thing, this the world being so superficial, and having her being just systematically torn down, or just little by little torn down, barely making a rating to get something that just propels it to the next level. And then, obviously it culminates with her coming to a wedding where she's like, 1.0, like a 1.0 rating, where she was supposed to be like 4.2, and all these people are just looking down upon her or whatnot. But the whole point of that scene, though, is really just to break her down completely, right? So at the end of the episode, it's about her just being free. Like, I think, just when she just starts yelling and whatnot, I mean, you could tell that's not even what she was like at home.
You were talking about,
Yeah.
like, it didn't happen at the wedding because she was still obsessed with
That
this
girl.
rating. And
Yeah.
once she finally lost everything, that's when she was like, fuck it. Like, there was no, like, that was it. That was her last chance, and she blew it. So fuck it.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see like the fuck it, and then come up like then comes the hard truth, right? Like, all right, fuck it. All right, I'm here. All right, guys. Well, guess what? This fucking system is stupid. You're all superficial pieces of shit. Like blah 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 blah. She never like gives it to him, man. It just comes across as crazy. Like she never really sticks it to him, or sticks it to the man, or sticks it to the system. It's like she tries to, but then fails epically. I guess that was it. And I mean, I guess maybe that's kind of the more predictable ending. But I think I would have felt.
I feel like if they did that, then it would have just been copying season 1, episode 2.
Which one?
The
Wait,
talent
which
show.
one was that?
The 13 Million Merits.
Oh,
the bikes,
the game
the
show,
talent show.
The talent show. The
Oh
voice
yeah.
thing.
Well, no,
It's-
because in that one he sells out, right? Like this one she's not selling out. Like this one she is taking what the truck driver said. She's seeing how superficial it all is. She's seeing how miserable and unhappy she is, and then she's going to this place where
He sold out afterwards when he was doing his speech. That was passionate, like from the heart.
Yeah.
Anger and everything.
But he made
So then
sense
after that. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess it would have.
I mean, the girl, you have to remember, like in the episode. I mean, in the episode or in the truck with the other woman, she wasn't converted yet. She said, "Oh, you're old. You're." Well, she basically said, "You're old."
Like the
you're old.
cancer thing.
The cancer thing, and she's like, you've already gone through this thing, so you don't actually know what it's like now to be, young and going through this. Like, we have to do this. Like, we have to go through the system. And so she actually left this whole truck thing, still obviously on the path of trying to convince these, huge rating people that she was still, a really good person or whatnot, and then they could totally flip it. And again, it didn't happen until she literally was in jail, or when she was taken from the wedding. Then she had that actual switch flipped for her. So I don't know. Maybe the pacing is just a little slow for you, and it is an ambiguous ending, so it's not like crystal clear as to how it happened. It definitely leaves you hanging. But I don't know. I just thought it was. I didn't think it was the worst episode. There's definitely been another
the worst
couple
episode was later
episodes.
on in the season for me.
Exactly. Me too.
So let's go to the next one.
Yeah, let's go to the next one. So the next one is the one that has to do with gaming, which is kind of cool. And
that was dope.
yeah.
Oh,
All right. So
God.
Diction, you wanna walk us through this one since.
All right, so this guy leaves his mother's house to go travel Europe and Asia and stuff. Ends up in London. His card's been declined because his mother, I think, canceled his credit card. And he has to find he has to find like a quick job to make some money for a plane ticket home. But goes to this company that makes video games for a beta test, and they install this thing in his head called a mushroom, and he starts seeing virtual images in his mind, and no one else can see him. And they put him into this haunted house scenario. And he starts seeing the spiders and all this
bullies,
crazy shit,
bullies and spiders mixed together.
Yeah, and then a lot of it starts relating back to his his father who had Alzheimer's and died, and how he's been ignoring his mother's phone calls constantly because he doesn't want to deal with it. And then essentially it starts going down the rabbit hole of like, oh shit, something's fucked up. Like his it's not working correctly. His brain's mush, blah, blah, blah. And eventually it ends up being that he didn't actually experience any of it. His mother called his cell phone while they were setting it up, and he had a brain aneurysm, and for 0.2 seconds he was experiencing everything. But like in his mind, it was like hours and hours and hours, and then he dies.
Yeah.
And I mean, first of all, how fucking terrifying. Okay?
Yes.
How
Yeah.
fucking
Yes.
terrifying.
Yes.
Like people ask me, like, when are you going to do virtual reality horror games? And I'm like, go fuck yourself. I am never doing that shit. Like, even, like, I get enough fear from just playing a video game at my desktop. There are gifs of me, like, with pure fear on my face, and I've seen it. It's like, there's no mistaking that. I am already as scared as I possibly fucking will be. But when you get virtual reality, right? Like, and that is happening today. Like, this is today.
Totally.
It's not even part of the show. It's not even, fiction, right? That there are scary games out there that you can put a headset on and suddenly you're there and you're inside of it. And that is fucking frightening to me. So this is taking a step further, right? It's your real life, but you never know what's real or not because it's all just made up, right?
Yeah.
And I think that one day we'll get there, maybe, like we may get there, and this could be a reality, and this could be all types of games, right? It could be, and this is especially exciting for people that like us in our culture, and on Twitch, because this is like a glimpse into the future, right? Now, this one obviously is done in a storytelling way and all that stuff, but I think it's just so much fun to think about. I think it's just so fun to think about all the different directions that this kind of technology could take us, and how horrible and wonderful that exploring that might be, and what is reality at that point, and what is fake and what is real. And this idea that something could learn and work off of your brain and your deepest, darkest emotions. And yes, at the end of the show, it's almost like that double twist ending where you think it's over and then you think it's over again, and then it actually isn't, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like, I think the scariest thing about that was the amnesia stuff.
Just the dad's Parkinson's disease or whatever,
and that's a fear for him,
Alzheimer's,
right? Yeah, his Alzheimer's is a fear for him because he, that stuff can be genetic, and he's so scared of it that the thing finds that in his brain and then makes him start to forget who he is. Like, that is insane. That's so deep. That's so like fucked up.
That's some
like
meta shit.
That's some
that
meta
is
fucked
crazy.
up horror stuff. Like, when you think about horror, you think about like two things. You think about like the ambiance and the sort of horror, or the horrific setting, and then you think of like jump scares, right? And it's like the jump scares are the cheap scare, right? But the ambiance and everything are the meaningful scare that builds it all up inside you, that sets it. But we've never thought on a dimension that there's something that could get inside our brains and give us our greatest fear, and our greatest fear might be losing our minds or forgetting things, and then it actually makes us do that. Like, that's crazy to think about. Like, it's nuts.
No, totally. And
I've done hallucinogenic drugs before, and I can say that is not as fun as you may think. Experiencing things that aren't there.
It's called the mushroom, right?
That's called.
Yeah, I know. That's
It's called
not
the
I
mushroom.
cackled. I
That's
cackled.
true.
He was like, "Yeah, it's called the mushroom." I was like, "Ha ha, trip balls, dude."
Trip balls. No, I think it was. I mean, it was done really, really well. I have to say, I mean, I enjoyed it for sure. But the ending, I don't know. What do you guys think of these endings that like? They're basically double endings. One ending, and then you're like, oh, you think it's the end, but then it's like almost like a repeat of the ending, but then it ends up being a different, outcome, right?
Yeah,
that's kind of what you
it's
saw
good for this episode. It was a bit like once the plot got started, it was just a bunch of twists, like and like the whole concept was like, what is real? So the fact that the audience gets pulled into that, and they're like, guess what? That's not real. Ha, got you, audience. I thought that worked for the episode.
Yeah, and I agree with Diction. I think that normally I would dislike something like this, like a secret ending, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
like
it's just...
it's actually, it was last week, or something like that. It's
all
something
a
like that.
dream.
But yeah, it's all a dream, right? But in this episode, I have to agree with Diction. I think that it was appropriate, and the reason I think it's appropriate is because of everything that built up to it in the setting and just the concept in general.
Yeah.
So, what is real, what isn't real is like the whole part of this episode. So if you want to have multiple twist endings, it's like it goes right in line with what we're seeing,
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me, but I can see why it would.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things where we've definitely seen this type of progression in outcome before, but the actor was really, really good. Like, I think the best part I loved was, he goes in there very skeptical. He's like trying to be relaxed as possible, and then that voice in his ear is this form of comfort. And by the way, the voice in the ear is basically I don't know if she's a developer or she basically works for the gaming company, and she's like kind of his guide through this whole thing. So she's kind of his voice of comfort the entire time. And he's just like a regular dude, I would say a relatively, savvy, smart dude, in terms of gaming or just regular life, traveling the world and whatnot and all that stuff. And he goes in there and he's just not completely to the point where it's just like, oh, this is not going to fool me. It's just like, I'm not going to get hypnotized, one of those guys, going into a hypnotist or whatnot. He's not quite to that point because he doesn't know what to expect, because this is like, whoa, this is kind of technology stuff. This is crazy. But then you can see it just like, he's just systematically getting broken down. He's still very positive about what's going on whenever that girl shows up inside the whole system, when she's like, hey, there's something going on, this company is not the company they said, and he's like, how did you even know I was here? And so he actually figures out that she's fake, right? But then he feels the whole knife stabbing and whatnot, and so that kind of just basically freaked him out. That was pretty much the point that just turned him. And that would be crazy if they could create, physical sensations. If these virtual reality games could actually create physical pain, I think that's the point that would just totally get me.
That's where I would turn it off.
Yeah, that's where it's just like, okay, I can't play this shit.
That was going to be my next question
Yeah,
to you guys.
just-
If this game actually existed, if this technology actually existed, would you play it?
No, I wouldn't play it. I mean, not a horror game, at least. Maybe, I don't know, maybe some other kind of game, but not horror game. And no, not porn games, and not porn apps either, guys.
Why not?
Something different.
That sounds
Why
amazing
not?
to me.
That sounds
This kind of
amazing.
technology it lends itself to this. That's the whole reason this guy's making it.
Oh, man.
Listen, the horror thing is just a front. All right,
And
this is all about.
This is all
This
This
is
is all the
all
POV
about-
and stuff. Oh my god.
Yes, point of view.
It's not even point of view. It's you, basically.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes it so great.
Oh, man.
The future of porn is bright, and I'm excited.
It's very good.
But
Let's make a
I think
porno together.
yes.
Oh man.
Hello and Diction make a porno. So here's the question. Okay, so I asked you guys if you guys would play it. Here, my answer is I would.
Wow.
And
Okay.
the reason I would is simply because I consider myself a video game enthusiast, and something like this, I just don't think I'd be able to pass up. Like,
Yeah.
I know it would kill me, it would frighten me, and I'd probably cut out early, and I would be like, I'm done. But the curiosity in me and just the love and the passion that I have for video games, like, I would just have to get in there. Like,
That was
I
my
would just
first
Really?
time
have
doing
to.
Yeah.
Oculus. Like, I did Oculus 3 years ago at like E3 or some shit, and that was back when VR was like still like a concept, like it was a beta. And so I was kind of a little bit nervous. I was like, fuck, what if I get motion sickness? Like, what if I throw
Sure,
up or
yeah.
something? Like, I was worried, and then I did the VR demo, and I was like, oh, I'm fine. This is fucking rad, cool. And now I own VR, and I'm like happily playing it.
Yeah, it's the pain aspect that's the biggest thing for me. I mean,
That's
it's
yeah.
yeah.
Well, they
it's-
told him it wouldn't happen, and then it did happen.
Yeah, so I mean that when it comes to that point, I don't know. It's one of those things for me. It's where I it's kind of like Matrix. Like, I would rather be in reality than actually be in some kind of weird distorted thing. And when you start feeling pain or whatnot, then I think that's when it starts getting to the point where you might just stay in that reality forever. And this is kind of leading into another episode we're about to talk about too, which will be kind of further extend this discussion, but pain is definitely something that, I only want to experience in real life, not in some kind of like, hobby or some form of entertainment that I want to.
I don't know, man. I think it's exciting. I think it's really exciting. It's not, I mean, as long as I knew that at the end of this session or at the end of the day, I could take a headset off or push a button, I'd be able to get out of there and I would be totally fine. As long as there weren't any like permanent damage, I'm okay with pain. Like, for instance, I love airsoft. Like airsoft, like I go out and I get on the field and I shoot some people, they shoot me, I walk away, I've got bruises, it's pain, right?
Sure.
But I had fun. It was the adrenaline, it was the fun. I used to, train, and do MMA, I don't mind pain as long as I don't mind being hurt. I don't want to be injured, like there's a difference for me. So being injured, I'm going to walk away with a sprained ankle or I'm going to walk away with a broken arm, something like that. And then like when I'm done, I'm going to have to recover for months. No, I don't want that. But if, I know that I'm just going to feel the sensation of pain, I'm okay with this, to a degree, and I think that that's sort of exciting. Now, not everybody's gonna feel that way, but I certainly do. And I think that is an exciting prospect, because what I would love to see in video games, and I've thought about this before, like what would be like a fun, like a badass video game. And to me, and I don't know how you would ever develop this, is like imagine if you could fight somebody in a virtual world. Like me and Diction could go in a virtual world and we could actually beat the shit out of each other. Like we could use our
like
real life skills.
Style.
Yeah. And I've seen, listen. And this is not just, Diction getting punched in the back of the head by a homeless person in San Francisco or San Diego, which did happen, But this is like, I'm talking about like a real fight that we could have in a virtual reality. And like when you did enough damage to break my arm, that my arm would be disabled, or it would act as if it were broken.
Would it feel like it was broken?
No. But you would, but here's the, hold on a second. It wouldn't feel like it was broken, but you would feel you could feel the pain in your arm. Now, it doesn't have to be a broken pain, but let's say he hits my arm with a baseball bat, okay, in this thing, okay. I don't want it to feel like I'm being hit in the arm with a baseball bat, but if you wanted to, do a pinch or a shock or something, or you wanted to let me know that there was damage being done to my arm through pain, I'm okay with this. Now, do I want the pain of my arm breaking? Of course not. But I think it's exciting to think that he could hit my arm and break it, and my character in the game would have to deal with
that's
that,
a totally different thing. See, that's a totally different thing for me. So should there be some physical response to?
It's more like sensory.
Yeah, I don't mind. I mean, I would do that. I mean, that's kind of like going to one of these, Disney theme things, and then you have that 4D experience where there's like stuff that's squirting your face and water hitting you and shit when you're watching this stuff, right?
Not water.
Yeah, it's not water. Oh my god.
Maybe do like a Westworld thing with like a pain slider.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you can decide. I think everybody should be able to decide the level of pain. Like if you wanted it to feel like your arm broke,
there
you could.
That's what it would be, right? But I would never have it be reality. And that guy was experiencing a freaking knife going through his shoulder and shit like that. Like I would not want a horror game to be like that for me, because that, I don't know. The thing is like that type of effect does have, I think, some place. Whether, I don't know, if you're training for something, like you said, fighting. Let's say you just want to experience what it's like to be hit. Like you're trying to decide if you want to be a fighter or not, and then you go through that whole experience. Then you should kind of have that experience. But I don't know, if you're not ready for that type of thing, it does affect you. Even though it's not real. But that type of pain does affect you in some way, just whether mentally or whatnot. And, it's just, maybe it's the control freak in me or whatnot, but I definitely would, want to be, in control of when I experience that and for what purpose I experience that. And a horror game is not that. A horror game is supposed to surprise you and fuck you up and shit like that. Those are the best ones.
And like think of like all the ways you could implement it. You could teach soldiers how
to right. I mean, there's a place.
Torture, without actually sustaining damage. Like it's pretty crazy. My favorite part of this episode though is the fact that first of all, how casual they are when they find out that he's dead. Like they're just like, oh well, this is test subject number.
I know.
Oh, we lost another one. Here we go. We need another Timmy, like in dinosaurs, like old school dinosaurs.
Can you imagine if Kojima was like that? Kojima was.
That's
oh my god! What a
it's definitely modeled after Kojima.
Easy, exactly.
Totally modeled after him.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I guess my favorite thing about this is that this entirely happened to this guy because of like a happenstance, right? The
Yep.
only reason
Yep.
this happened was because
Well,
he
it's his
decided to pull it's his fault because he
Yeah.
pulled the phone out and took those pictures and sent them, which, by the way, ambiguous. What happens at that point? She's got to go looking for him. She's got to, there's, like all the implications of that picture being sent and then him dying. Like, there's a whole nother story to be told.
Well,
there,
the thing that's like weird about it is that like, or the like he was an outsider, right? Like, so for all she knows, he did the beta test, got a ticket, and went back home. It was like a one night stand,
Yeah, but to send the picture to her, he would want to come back and collect the money, right? Like
true, yeah.
like he would. There was business still to be done between the two of them.
I forgot about that,
yeah, and the fact that he just took those pictures is just what it got him killed. He left his phone on afterwards, and it interrupted the technology or the headset that he had, and ended up killing him.
So so what's interesting is that all of this stuff happened in 0.2 seconds. So
Yes.
it's like, how do they even monitor what even happened to him? You know what I mean? Like, how do these game developers even track what to change or how to even develop this type of thing, right? Because, if they would have been able to see what he was seeing, obviously they didn't, it was too short a time, but if they were to see what he was doing, they would have known that he took he actually took a picture, right? Because the girl showed up and basically was saying that, oh, I looked up the, what they're working on and all this stuff, and they would have known. But the fact that it happened so fast, it's just kind of like, I don't know. that was a little bit odd too. Just thinking about if that's realistic or not. But yeah, it's definitely one of these things where even if it's his fault, I mean, you still can't do shit like this, okay? Like, there's no disclaimer that says you fucking die doing this because of that. I don't know. Maybe there is. Maybe he did sign some kind of disclaimer that if you die, then it's not our fault. But
it did seem very like covered up, it didn't seem like this was something that was covered in the NDA, like you may experience death, it's like,
I think see you later. When you see that clause, you're just gone, right? Okay, well, anyways, why don't we move on to the next one, which was Shut Up and Dance. And this is like, this episode is an episode where I know even a few friends that cover their webcams, even when they're not, when they're not broadcasting or using any kind of apps, because they're just scared of this episode in particular. And this goes back to Ello talking about or even Diction talking about this is technology that we can relate to, and this one's definitely one I think all of us can, given that we all have webcams.
This one's the most pertinent. Like, this is just like not even sci-fi. Like, this shit.
This shit could.
Yeah, there's like nothing. This could happen today. Like, they have this. Everyone has all the tools to do this.
Yeah, definitely. And this is kind of it's like an extension of episode 1, season 1, where you have somebody on the internet that's basically just manipulating you. In the first episode, it was the prime minister. In this one, there's like an army of people that apparently that have malware on their computers, and then all of a sudden they're being blackmailed and just controlled, like, to do all kinds of crazy things. And this episode, I don't know, what do you guys think about this episode? This episode I felt like was the most realistic for me, but this is one of the episodes I liked the least, though. And I think it had a lot to do with the main character. That kid, I just don't like that kid.
He was a little. He was. Yeah. I loved it, but I didn't love it for the characters. Because they're all bad people. Like, they've done something bad. They get blackmailed.
The Game of Thrones dude, I think was fine.
He was
I thought he was good.
He was the take charge kind of dude, but like still, he's a dick. But the kid was just like crying the whole time.
Yeah, he
got a little old.
Yeah, he was very unstable feeling. I mean, like, the way he was acting, or maybe that was his character. It was this mixture of unstable and whiny and crybaby, and then he ends up being, I mean, he's not a pedophile, but he's always
he is a pedophile.
Is he just straight up pedophile, or he's just
he was
looking at kitty porn? But
yeah, he was looking at kitty porn, so he's he's a pedophile, and I think that solidifies in one of the earlier scenes where the little small girl leaves the toy and he gives it to her, and he's super nice to her. I think it is when that happened, I almost went in my head, okay, they're showing us this for a very specific reason.
Okay, and
it's one of the two things in my head. I said it's either that this kid is got some kind of pervy thing towards kids, or that it's just showing he's just a really sweet guy. Like, he's just a really nice guy. Which is what they want. It's kind of the whole thing is it's interesting because this is an episode that deals with new theories actually when it comes to like pedophiles, you know, almost like the sympathetic pedophile, you know, like instead of just like rebuking them, they're like, you know, this is a condition or a disease, something like that. Like this kid runs a totally normal life and doesn't do anything. Like he wasn't creepy with that young girl, even though he has those inclinations. And for every respect of the word, he's a sweet, innocent kid, you know, but he's got these urges, right? And so he does what he does in the privacy of his own home. You know, obviously it's a horrible, terrible thing. But you know, I guess the thing is that because he's so sweet and because he's so nice and they make him out to be this good, this like really nice kid, you think that he's just shy and so embarrassed about him masturbating to regular porn that he's doing all this stuff because he just doesn't want anybody to know. Because my thing is like, obviously there has been instances where streamers have left their camera on or before they did anything and they masturbated.
Yes,
and
we definitely.
Becomes a big thing.
That's happened.
That's
definitely happened.
But I was watching this, and as I'm watching this, I was thinking to myself, what if that happened to me? What if I, you know, left my camera on, or what if it's totally possible. I look at porn and fucking arrest me, you know, like that's what I do that. I love
everybody.
It, you know?
We all look at porn. Come on.
Arrest for admitting that, but right now.
But the thing is
my camera's on. What?
Like the thing is the thing about that is that I would not ever go to the extent that this kid went to hide that from everybody. If it was, you know, if somebody got the video and everything, as soon as they're like, go rob somewhere, I'm like, you know what? Go fuck yourself. All right. So everyone gets to see a picture of my glorious cock and my O face. Fine, whatever. Well, send it around. I don't care. I'm not going to get in more trouble or kill somebody or do all this stuff. So, but the thing is I think the reason he's so whiny and the reason he's so scared and the reason he's doing all that is because in a directing sense, I think that the director wanted you to feel like this kid was just so shy and so sweet that this was just normal porn, and that he was, you know, so afraid of everybody knowing this about him. So shy, that it wasn't actually that bad, right? You don't think it's that bad. For the majority of the show, I'm thinking to myself, why is this kid doing all this? Like, he must be just super shy because, you know, at a certain point, like I said, if it came to a gun and like robbing somewhere, I would just go fuck yourselves. Send it, you know, like send it to my friends and family, whatever. I tell people I stream, you know, I masturbate all the time, you know, like it's not a big deal. All right. So you got footage everywhere. Yeah, it's fine. You know, go for it. Like, do your worst, whatever. You know, but like this kid keeps proceeding, and it almost doesn't make sense, right? Like, it's almost like at a certain point, you're like, damn, I would have given up at this point. Like, did you guys not feel like you would have not?
Of course, I would not have robbed a bank and had to fight a guy to the death. I mean, there's no way.
But it's child. But then at the end you learn it's child.
Yeah, it's child. And
now it makes more sense. But I think that's why he does the whiny thing. Like, it's a directing thing. It's more to make you think that this is just a really emotionally unstable kid.
It was like annoying the first time around. That I watched it again. I was like, oh, it makes perfect sense why he's fucking freaking out and why he's going along with this without questioning it. Really, you know. Yeah. Like the initial when they were like they showed him the video and he's fucking like hands on his head, like pacing around, crying. Like I was like, why is he so freaked out about that? Like you were, you know. Then you find out at the end, like, oh, fucking kids. Okay, yeah, I would probably freak out a lot too because I wouldn't want that to get out to my family.
For me, I think it was
directing like choice.
Yeah, it was just more the actor. I think the first like third of the episode he was actually good. But then it was just like the last 2/3, it was just distracting to me. The way he was, even like kind of watching it a second time, it just, I don't know, it was very, very distracting to me. But the episode itself, the script and just the premise of the whole thing, I think was good. Didn't have quite as impact because of season 1, episode 1 for me. I think if that didn't have happened, this would probably have even more of an impact on me. But because it's just the kind of similar, you know, online, whatever, troll manipulating somebody and an army of people to hear, it just wasn't super original, I guess, for me. But I get it too. I totally get it. It's just I kind of wish it was a different dude, a different actor. Yeah, and it might have been better.
You know, and this again, I just want to restate this. This is probably the only episode where everything you see in it could happen today. You know, having a drone that films thing and like whatever. But like, yeah, but the thing is that like this almost doesn't feel like Black Mirror, because it's not necessarily about some technology
Futuristic
that some futuristic technology that we're on the way to.
Mhm.
But
It's
I feel like that's a misnomer. Like that people think that like Black Mirror has to be like
way in the
days
future,
from today or
exactly.
a year in the future or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it can be now and still.
Oh
be
yeah, yeah.
commentary on our like this is totally a commentary on like the way the internet affects our lives and how easy it is to manipulate it and to manipulate people with it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it was a good or bad
Like,
thing. I was just saying it stood
it's
out.
probably the most Black Mirror episode that there is because it's like
It's most
it is so
relatable.
contemporary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fucking is the most relatable thing in the show.
Yeah, my only point was that it just stood out. It stood out. It stands
Yeah.
apart because it is that. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I tend to agree with you. I think it's a good thing. I just was mentioning that, you know, this is one of those episodes that
Agreed.
doesn't fall in line. And I like to sort of see that with Black Mirror, because while the futuristic sci-fi stuff is great and it's wonderful, you've got to do something at some point to kind of pull away from that. You know, like a lot of these episodes are starting to kind of be, you know, they have a lot of very similar things, you know, and it's like, how many different sci-fi things can we come up futuristic sci-fi things? And I think it's infinitely more interesting to do something in the now, like Diction said, that can still be fucked up and can still.
It's also like I respect them for not, catering to fan expectations. Like that's bad writing. If you're just like, okay, every episode's got to be the future, or every episode's got to have like some super in-depth message to give out to the people, you know, like a takeaway, which there was a message in this. It's like fucking cover up your webcams, dipshits.
exactly.
No, the message is don't let your fucking sister on your laptop.
Yeah, exactly. Don't let your sister or your kids on
fucking mitts off other people's shit, or you're gonna get them caught for
like,
child pornography.
The whole episode was like a contemporary version of like the G.I. Joes, like don't do drugs, like end caps, you know, where it's like, guys, don't, you know, like be aware of the internet. People can get your information.
So here's the question: was it the malware that was the culprit, or was it actually the cleaner, or was it the cleaner that he clicked on?
Oh right,
it was the cleaner. He fucked himself potentially.
I think it's the cleaner. Yeah.
And come on, everybody! I know everybody has done this before. Like whether it was like years ago or whatnot, you Googled a fucking malware cleaner and you just clicked on it.
On his computer is his own fucking fault.
Well, it is, but come on, we've all gone through that freaking innocent stage where we don't know jack shit about malware and stuff, and we go, oh, this seems to fix it. It comes up first on Google, so this must be trustworthy. Let's click on it, and then it's fucking Trojans all over the fucking place.
I am under the thought process that the only reason we have malware is because of malware. Yeah, like the malware removal people put malware out there so that they could sell a product for a problem they created, you know? And I think that actually happens a lot. But yeah, no, I totally get. I mean, it's so funny because just the other day, if you look at my Twitter, like just the other day, I was like, "What's the best anti
It's called format your hard drive." That's what it's called.
Yeah, that's what somebody said. Somebody was like everybody was like malware bytes, AdSense, blah 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 blah. And I did end up downloading malware bytes, and I cleaned up my my computer. But like two people were like, burn it. Like the only way you know
format your hard drive. That's when you feel them to save it.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. We still got like 3 episodes here. All right. So next one is episode 3. So 4. San Junipero.
And this is where we can talk about souls.
Yeah, souls. Exactly. This is the deepest one. This is a deep one.
This is the conversation. Because I fucking loved this episode.
I did too.
This is my favorite episode of the show, next to the Christmas episode, hands down.
My only wish is that at the end of the day, I thought for sure, and again, I do this thing where I try to figure things out as I watch them, right? I thought for sure this was 2 dudes. I thought for sure this was 2 dudes.
Oh my god, that would have been awesome if they were 2 dudes.
That's what I'm thinking. Imagine if instead of the old, I know it might have seemed juvenile, but imagine if at the end of the day, these 2 girls in this sand, whatever, it's not like an old folks home. It's just two basement WoW players that are just,
that would have been so good.
I thought it was happening. The scene where they're like embracing on the beach together and they're talking like, I want to meet you. Oh no, don't. No, I do. I want to meet you. Yes. No, I'm ready. It's like two fucking dudes. I'm waiting. I'm like, here we go.
Yeah.
Now, I'm kind of glad it ended up the way that it did. I am, but I thought, how fucking crazy would that have been at the end of everything? It's like
that would have been a twist.
Guys.
It wouldn't have been as powerful, but that would have been an odd. I would remember this episode forever if it was two dudes. That's for sure.
So let's just jump right into the hard question.
Let's
just jump right into the hard question.
There's two big questions actually. Yeah. Go ahead. The first one is probably the one you're going to talk about.
And I think this pops up a lot in Black Mirror, but this is the question: at what point do you no longer have? At what point is it the soul? At what point is it consciousness? At what point is it life? At what point do all these things come together, and at what point do they disperse? And I think this is a question of that. I think that this is a great example of consciousness continuing on, right? It's their consciousness, but not necessarily their soul, and that's my take on it. It's like the soul of the body is something that's it's not quantifiable. It's not something you can put into data. It's not something that we understand. It's not something we probably will ever truly understand, is the soul of a person, right? Now we could maybe possibly download our consciousness into a place just like these characters did, and live, and our consciousness live on, and that would be our reality, right? And what's the difference between that reality and our reality? It's all there. It's perception, right? But at the same time, I don't see how you can have the soul of a person continue into megabytes or or electricity, So it's interesting because at the end of the thing, it's like, yeah, you're happy because these two people are together and everything, but really, honestly, it's not them. It's not their souls. It's just their consciousness. And it's like, I think everybody will have a different opinion when it comes to that, And then you get into the whole like Battlestar Galactica Cylons, right. What is real? It's a toaster, It's not a toaster, that kind of thing. And you see this starting to pop up more and more with technology, but that's why it's so interesting. That's why it's so fucking interesting, is because it's a mystery, right? It's a mind fuck.
I think it basically. I don't think it questions, but I think it's one of those things where if you're a super spiritual person, you're probably like yourself, Ello, like this isn't your soul. But a lot of folks that aren't spiritual probably think that your consciousness and your soul are one thing, like it's one and the same, yes. Right? So yeah. I think this is where people will probably be polarized, just depending on what type of people they are. I'm the same as you. I'm more of a spiritual person, so I don't think your consciousness is necessarily your the soul of your body or the soul of your being, but it definitely makes you think about it. If you're a scientific person, like I kind of have this conflict sometimes, right? Because I definitely have a spiritual side, but I'm a scientist too. On like one part of me is scientist too. So there's always a point where it's conflicting, and these type of episodes or this type of concept does make you question it, and it's good because I think when you question things, that's when you reassure yourself of what you believe, and this episode was great for that. What do you think?
Yeah, like Sky. Sorry, real quick. Like Skyla and Espiel in the chat. Like he says, there's no such thing as a soul, anyways, and the soul isn't something that's real or proven. It's evidence of soul. It's just self-awareness. Right. Like all these questions. It's like, but we all aware of what a soul is, right? It's almost like innately we can identify what we're referring to. It's that thing that separates us from beasts. From some beasts, anyways. It's some people say reason, and maybe that's it. But I don't know. It's so interesting, and this episode brings it all out in such like an easily digestible way.
It talks about afterlife too, right? So afterlife is obviously a huge thing that everybody probably has thought about at some point, and Actually, Diction, what's your thoughts on this first before we get into the that next big conversation?
On the consciousness thing, or
yeah,
what?
just I mean, episode and just the consciousness.
Tell us all your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, tell us everything.
Who is
obviously
Diction?
The setting and the music are fucking great. The actresses are fantastic.
Yep.
And the way they slowly revealed what was going on was like the pacing was perfect. And yeah, it's like, and it's one of those rare episodes of Black Mirror where there's a happy ending, or at least happy-ish, like considerably happy.
It's interesting too. I one thing I loved about this specifically was kind of getting away from this conversation a little bit, was the different eras that they they went to and like did, like, how amazing. I mean, if there was a heaven, in our own mind, what we could conceive a heaven to be, if that's something that you believe in, like, I mean, this is pretty fucking close, right? You get to look how you want to look. You get to go to whatever, setting you want to go to. You get to do whatever you want. This place is basically, I mean, it's everything you ever wanted. Their house was a house on the beach. Like they were the only two there. Like all this stuff is
that
like
cool kinky sex club in the middle of the desert.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's like, but let's talk about that too. These people who are there. I mean, you are there forever. Like fucking Sandlot forever.
Well, until the next wing. Well, until the next wing opens, when like every 2 years, like, wow, when a new update comes, actually every 5 years or whatever, and then all of a sudden you get the I don't know, the amusement park, or I don't know what the hell it is, but
are they ultimately set up for failure? Like, are they ultimately, because they have that place in the desert, that crazy place, and that's where everyone goes once they've been there so long that there's nothing else exciting, there's nothing else to do. It's like at a certain point on an infinite a timeline, you're fucked. Like on an infinite timeline, you still have all the constraints of like your wants and needs as a human, but your consciousness never grows older, never dies. It is always put in the same loop over and over and over and over and over again. At a certain point, you are inevitably going to hit rock bottom.
No, but I think it's the opposite. I think it's the opposite of that, right? I think the ending is what just shows that you can have, say, relationships there, right? Or maybe your life before, can continue there too. So I think that even though the locations might be limited, and that's the kind of thing that can extend, like I said, like I wasn't really joking. Like I think they could add more, just more geography to the entire San Juniper or whatever, right? But the actual, your relationships and everything that you've built, like in your life, that can possibly continue. If her husband would have chosen to be in San Juniper, I guess maybe with their, kids or whatever, then she would have just been there. I mean, she would have been able to see them every single week, right? And that was
sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Just the husband, right? The husband of the older woman, right? That was the whole point, right? That was the thing that she was saying, that she wasn't going to go into San Juniper after she dies, because
they were just testing it out.
She was just
a visitor to her.
Yeah. She was just a visitor, just checking it out. But the whole thing was they lost their child early, right? And just going through that whole thing with her husband, and her husband didn't end up, choosing the San Juniper choice, and she was going to basically choose the same thing, just to be kind of loyal to him or in respects with him, being his, his just partner and wife and whatnot. That she would choose basically no ending at all. And that was a really great part of this episode too. It's just that choice, whether you should put yourself through that type of, I guess, torture or that type of sacrifice. Is that the right choice, right? Or do you continue on with a new life? And that's kind of what happened at the end. Is they continue on with a new life, and you can still have a very fruitful life, even infinitely. I think in a place like that. Will it be the greatest? Probably not. Will there be overpopulation? There's gotta be, right? Unless there's like different instances of these things.
Expand it.
Yeah, well, you can live in a different time of the same place, but
that's true. Yeah, but people are staying in different. Like, yeah, exactly.
I really love.
Interesting. So it's like, if you're in a different era, does that even mean like so let's say, okay, like the 80s, Does that mean that's entirely the 80s, or it's like 1981, 1982?
It's
Like,
probably
go by year
by year. I bet
Okay.
because it's overpopulation. Otherwise, it has to be.
It's almost like a chat room. It's almost like a chat room.
Yeah, it's a chat room.
Right.
Yeah,
It's like
it's
old
it's
school
like a-
chat rooms.
Yeah, it's
those
like the 1981 chat room.
Penguin clubs or
1982
Club Penguin things or whatever.
I think what I loved about this was how much heart it had, man.
Yeah.
It had so much heart.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that the concept was interesting and mind blowing, but that the characters and their problems were so real, and there's such a conundrum, and what an interesting conundrum, that she had, that loyalty she felt to her husband that she was with for so long. She can't just forget that. She can't. Like the problems and the situations. It's about the characters. When you're done with this episode, you went on a journey with these characters. It wasn't so much about the concept with this one, at least with me. Yeah, that was great and it was mind blowing, everything, but it was really about these two people in this environment, and how crazy that is. And it could have been a million different stories, and they could have presented it in a million different ways. But for whatever reason, they wanted to. For whatever reason, I felt like they wanted to show heart. They wanted to show, relationships and meaning and the continuity of relationships and the loyalty. It's just so crazy, man.
It was really cool that the girl with the glasses here, right? She obviously, I mean, her life essentially ended at that age, right? She got into that car accident. She was pretty much a I don't know, quadriplegic or just whatever, like in that bed essentially since the age that which she's represented there. But the other woman chose this age for herself. Obviously you can choose some. You have that choice whenever you enter the system. But that was cool that I didn't really understand why that girl in the glasses was so shy, and it was kind of cool. Like, it made a lot of sense that she got into an accident at that age and whatnot. And when in the beginning I thought she was going to get together with that dude that was playing Pac-Man the entire time, right? But it turns out he was just a fucking nerd. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's interesting too because it's all like on allocated time, right?
Right, 5 hours or something.
Yeah, it's not even like they can always spin their. It's almost like a demo. It's like they're demoing it to you. Do you want to purchase the real program?
Yeah, totally was a demo.
It's like you come in, you do the demo, and it has got a very video game feel to it. Like you come in, you do the early access or whatever. It's not the full game. It's not the full release. When you die, you'll make a decision and you'll come and hang out and sand whatever, or you won't. And it's interesting the way it's like almost marketed. Like. It's not like the afterlife is now entertainment. The afterlife is a marketable thing. Isn't that crazy to think about? Like that we could construct something that like the afterlife that could make people money or, could extend, give you immortality. It's like, what's the price tag on that? I thought
$1 trillion company.
Yeah.
Trillion, and because it never shrinks. It just continues to grow forever and ever and ever. Right. Like, that's one thing where, subscribers don't go away, guys, whenever you stop making content for a little time. This is like forever. Like, these people
guys playing. My stream right now is just a demo of the afterlife that you may purchase for the low price of, you can spend an eternity with Ellohime.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, I'm your
god now.
Oh my god. All right.
No, but I thought it was interesting real quick. The last thing I want to point out is the ages that they chose, because I think it's appropriate. I think that every person, not every person, but I think some or maybe even most people would love to go back and know what they know now and be young again. Like to be in that crazy phase or to have the freedom to be crazy. Think about the mothers, the young mothers that have kids and aren't able to really experience their youth, or for whatever reason they're not able to experience their youth.
Yeah,
but
totally.
And this is a time for her to, and that's the character on the left there. That was important for her that, she got time to, she'd been married for 30 years and been in a loving, loyal relationship. And that was fulfilling to her. But you know what? I think there's a part of people who are in monotonous relationships that want that kind of miss the spontaneity and the novelty of knowing a new lover, or going out and drinking and having going to a party, all this stuff that they may have missed. I think it's appropriate that they pick those ages because that's like their prime, and maybe they missed
Makes
out
sense.
on those things. So I thought that was really interesting that it's almost like it's very relatable, like I think that if I could go back, I would probably pick a much younger age. You've like an age where you're almost fully mature, but you're still a young person, and there's still that.
Dude, I would pick a little kid where all I have to do is shit, eat, and not have to worry about anything, man. That's the beauty. That's when life's the most beautiful.
Oh, yeah. No.
Like
Make me
my
a
ass.
PB&J sandwich.
Exactly. PB&J sandwich. All right.
I love this episode. This
Oh yeah,
episode's so
easily one.
cool.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite episode,
There's
just like Ella.
A fun
Yeah,
fact:
eat.
if you were like super Catholic, you could have guessed the ending because Junipero was not brought into sainthood until 2008.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little tiny detail they put in there for.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
So Saint Junipero was not
Yeah.
a saint until 2008.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. That's
Interesting.
cool.
She's super hot too, the glasses girl. I'm just throwing it out there. I have a soft spot in my heart for nerdy chicks, man.
But she
Nerdy
does
chicks
not look.
rev my engine, man.
She doesn't look nerdy at the end. She just looks really nerdy right there, man.
Oh,
I like
God.
when she was
I
trying,
like
I'm
that
like-
nerdy look. I'm like, be nerdy, girl. Be nerdy. Be shy. Like,
Oh man.
Be introverted, yeah.
Yeah.
that's hot.
Yes. Yes.
You're a fucking predator, God.
It's this guy again. Is this what we're talking about? This guy again? No. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, let's go move on to the next one. We're like running over a lot, but
God,
okay. So this is episode 5, Men Against Fire, and okay. So this one made me think a little bit too. This was definitely something that I wouldn't put it past the government to actually do at some point, if it came to this. But this was basically your the whole kind of contraption, some type of filter that they put on your eyes. And in this particular episode, they were able to manipulate what their soldiers saw from specific types of people. And in this case, it was some type of nationality. I forget the actual country for which
They're
these people.
essentially like refugees.
Yeah,
or,
refugees. That's what
country.
they were. They're refugees, and they made them out to look like vampire monster zombies or whatever.
Yeah.
So it would just make them easy to just kill, shoot up these people whenever they engaged with them. And the way they kind of progress through it is that they kind of have it. There's this knowledge of these these monsters, and it's like, okay, we're gonna go out and we're gonna kill them. And one of the monsters had a device that actually fucked up their filters and their eyes, at least for this one particular character, so he could actually see what they look like. So pretty okay. So anyways, interesting. Obviously, this is your typical Black Mirror. It throws up a moral conflict there as to whether this is a right or wrong thing to do. So yeah, let's just dive into it. Diction, what do you think? I'll have you start off.
It was a pretty good episode. It wasn't one of my favorites. Mostly because it was just like it seemed like a zombie shooter for the first like 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it got to the meat and bones of like what was really going on, it got really interesting. Plus, it had that actor from House of Cards that I like, the bald guy, the one that the lackey that does everything for the president.
I forget his name, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought it's got a really interesting moral quandary in the middle of it, and how far the government will go to get the results they want from their military. I thought that was pretty cool.
Can you see the government doing something like that? Could you see our government doing something like that?
I mean, they won't tell us what's in Area 51, so fuck it. Yeah,
exactly. All right, Ello, what do you think?
This one's tough because in the explanation of why they do it, once he's already kind of figured it out and he's got the glitch and everything like that, and it makes a lot of sense. Like, I know, as horrible as that sounds, there's like a logic and a reason to it, and so it's like it's like it's very, very, very tough. The one thing I did feel about this that I didn't feel about the other ones is how not surprising this one was. I think it was very, I think most people right off the bat realized that something was up, like it wasn't like a normal Black Mirror episode where like the surprise is like, oh shit, mind blowing. It's like, as soon as you see those guys acting all crazy and everything, I think most people would be like, all right, these guys, they're not, these are real people, Yeah. Like I didn't feel surprised ever in this episode. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm okay with that. I just thought it just felt different because I don't think that they really had very many surprises. I think it was pretty predictable, but I don't think it necessarily wanted to be surprising. I think that it was okay with being predictable.
I was in the moment. I mean, I have to say, I wasn't like, oh my gosh, whenever that happened, but I think I was immersed enough that I was, that the little twist there was effective for me. Watching the show.
The twist was effective because the whole time I was second guessing the whole like generic zombie vampire like plot device, because I was like, this isn't a Black Mirror thing to do,
Right. Yeah, that too.
Like too obvious. It's way too obvious.
Yeah, and just the moment he sees, like the moment where he actually sees the guy that he ends up stabbing, a million times, right? The original, in the beginning of the episode, you see him just stabbing the zombie like 20 times, and it's like, no big deal. He's just like overkilling the zombie, whatever, this monster. But then when you actually see it's a dude, and it's like the knife slowly goes into him, and then all of a sudden he just like literally stabs him like 20 times. That's when it's like destroys the guy, basically, right? Seeing that, and he just has like, stop showing it to me or whatever, right? That makes you wonder with some of these soldiers, like how would they feel about it? I think most soldiers, of course, they are people that deserve respect, and I have the biggest, utmost respect for all of the armed forces that defend our country. But you have to wonder sometimes, like how far does that go if you're being deceived in a certain way?
Yeah.
The deception's not terrible, because like the explanation, they do say that the reason that we do it is just so that there won't be any kind of mental penalties potentially to doing this. Whenever you're just seeing the regular people, any kind of psychological conflict there. Whenever you just make it into a monster, there's just no issues, right, at all, and no possible side effects to it either. But at the same time, it's like, how do you feel being deceived? Especially when you're killing things.
Well, it's kind of like an ignorance is bliss thing, right? I mean, we've seen what war can do to our soldiers, right? Unfortunately,
yep.
PTSD, our veterans especially, and that is so tragic and so fucked up. These people sign on to kill. I mean, that's what being a soldier is. You understand that when you join the army or you join the armed forces in any capacity, that there may be a chance that you might have to take a life, right? And I think that in the military, I think you're not necessarily deceived, but I think you're always not necessarily told everything. Your job isn't there to know everything. Your job is there to do what you're told, and I don't think it's necessarily deceiving people, because it doesn't seem like these people signed up or were forced to sign up or anything like that. These are people that want to be there. I mean, these are people that want to do this. In fact, a lot of them love it. They have a passion for it, like her, his friend, the chick. So there's an interesting side of this where it's like, I don't feel bad for these people being deceived, because at the end of the day, they're doing what they signed up to do. They're killing. Now, if you could kill and, not have any of the side effects and not have the PTSD, not have all the fucked up stuff that comes out, the suicide afterwards, the dismemberment from your family and everything, all that stuff, I don't know. It's horrible to kill people, and it's horrible to watch this man walk in and slaughter, a bunch of roaches. But at the same time, he's gonna do it anyways. That's what he is there for. That's what the position is. It's like you can't,
Well, I think that what they're trying to present to us is that it would have been much more of a conflict. It's different when you're shooting a guy that has a gun that's trying to shoot you. I mean, that's like. That's just survival. And so that's a natural instinct from all of us anyways. But it's a lot different when you're talking about, a helpless woman and their child, and you're supposed to just mow them down, right? I mean, it does affect them. I do agree that, the soldiers, they are basically pawns in a greater, system. And that is what their job is, and that's what they're hired to do. But at the same time, these pawns, they do have their own, consciousness and how they feel about it, just their own moral compass too. And I think that's what they're trying to get across, right, in this episode.
I wish that I knew more about the world. I wish I knew more about the circumstances. I wish I knew more about the war and the people involved and why these people the people feel like they needed to eradicate these people. Is it a simple like is it a pure is like a pure blood Hitler, we have to eradicate all the people different from us kind of thing, or do these people carry some sort of genetic disease that could threaten humanity? Or,
what if it's just strictly overpopulation and like somebody has to die, somebody has to die?
There's a lot of context there that is missing for you to really truly find any semblance of an answer, even if you could, so there is that. But I think it was, I don't know. It's just Black Mirror, man. I don't know,
exactly.
Man. I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know.
All right.
It's
well,
like you just gotta say I don't know. It's tough, right? And that's what the episode. That's what makes it good. That's what. Yeah. I don't think it's the best, but I think it's a good
solid
episode.
Though. It definitely had a good moral conflict, which is what it comes down to with these episodes. Okay, the last one, episode 6, Hated in the Nation. So I want every one of you Twitch viewers to watch this episode, okay? And think of all the horrible things you've said. Oh, okay, yeah.
And all the things you've done.
All the folks on Twitter too, right?
Obviously. Yeah. Oh man, what a crazy fucking
episode. So this episode was crazy and whatnot, but for me personally, this was the least Black Mirror out of all the episodes when I was watching it. It was just kind of like, I feel like I'm watching like some CSI episode or just some other sitcom. It was not sitcom, but some other series that was not Black Mirror.
Yeah, I was not a big fan of this one. Maybe I gotta rewatch it. I don't know, but like the whole fucking robot bees thing just like really didn't do it for me. It's just like this is Invader Zim. They had a robot bee in that. Like what the fuck, dude?
Exactly. And where was the moral conflict anywhere there? Like, they were just trying to find basically a hacker slash killer slash whatever. But
the message was like essentially like people are sheep, and when they see a trending hashtag or something, they just jump on the bandwagon because they think it's cool. And then the message is like, yeah, well, this one kills people.
Yeah, but it was presented in a side note, and it's kind of what it was more of a means to an end that was not, it didn't really have that much to do with it. You know what I mean? Like, it was more about finding that guy and figuring out how he's hacking all this stuff. And this was like the mechanisms which he was using to kill people. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was, I mean, it wasn't like it wasn't entertaining. I mean, it was fun to watch, but it didn't have any impact on me other than just, okay, that was a cool hour of entertainment. That's about it. Like, I don't know how much more to talk about it for me, at least from my standpoint.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I fall too. I was kind of worried about getting to this episode because I'm like, what am I gonna say about it?
Right.
I mean, it's like it was like a Law and Order, like a CSI episode, right? Like taken to the extreme. I think that there's obviously a message there about, judgment and, about being anonymous and, how what we do, obviously, has an effect on other people. And, should we be punished for that? Is death the punishment for choosing somebody like that? And and maybe it is, maybe rushing to judgment on people, and putting somebody under the chopping block just because you made a snap judgment about people. It's like it goes against everything that we believe in our justice system, right? Like innocent until proven guilty. In this case, it's the opposite. It's like guilty until proven innocent, and just how quickly people are able to like just throw someone under the bus when it's not them. When it's not them, there's no compassion, there's no sympathy or empathy even. So
actually, for me, the bigger lesson, I think that was what they were trying to get across. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But for me, the way it was presented, the bigger lesson learned for me is just before you make, or there are no quick fix decisions to any of these things, or don't be so rushed to just try to fix something super fast. Because that Asian dude kept fucking up like over and over and over. And it was him. It was him just, pressing the enter key is what ended up killing all those people in the end. They possibly could have prevented that. If they just never pressed that, executed that command or whatever that was that they found, then maybe that never would have happened. So
this hits home on a kind of different scale because of what we do specifically. We're in the public eye and we get a lot of judgment every day. There's people who think that they know me, and have never spent a day with me in person, and have never walked through my shoes, have never been through the things I've been through, have never experienced my life. They don't, there's a lot of people out there that don't fucking know me, but they'll tell you that they do. They think they do. They'll judge me. They'll throw it out there on the internet because that's being in the public eye. And if there's one thing I hope that people get from this episode is that maybe before you get online and start throwing that judgment or trying to pretend like you know somebody or their situation, that maybe you would hesitate for a moment. That's the only thing I can say about this episode is that maybe next time, I go to make a judgment about somebody in a situation I think I understand clearly by reading a few sentences or an article on the internet. Maybe I'll stop and go, hey, you know what? Maybe I don't fucking know this person.
Right, exactly.
Maybe I shouldn't just rush to judgment and throw my 2 cents in just because I can and because there's no consequences.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that sense, on a personal level, I appreciate this because of what I do. Now, not a lot of people would come at it from that perspective because not a lot of people are in the public eye like we are, so that's a more personal thing. But I think there is obviously a lesson here to be learned. Now, was it entertaining? Maybe, but was it the best episode? Then probably not. But if somebody could glean something positive about it, and meaning not rush to judgment and not pretend like somebody, I'm kind of like, all right, all for it. I get that message. I can support that, at least that. But I don't really have much more to say about it other than that.
Yeah, I guess following up on what you just said there, I think like the scenes that I think did have, was really good about presenting those things was the conversation they had with the teacher, when they were like interrogating the teacher. And she's like, everybody does it. Like, what's the, like, it was just a joke and, that sort of thing. That was a really great scene. And then another powerful moment was when the guy that was working with them, typed the death too, and they typed that guy's name, right? And he was like thinking about it before he actually pressed the enter key and contemplating on whether maybe there is some kind of penalty to doing this. And then he finally just ended up doing it, right? I think everybody's probably been in some kind of situation where you're like right at that precipice, whether you should be doing something or not, whether it's online or whatnot. And, I don't know, sometimes you decide to do it, sometimes you don't decide to do it, but that was a really powerful moment. I give it, if there is one thing in this episode that I remember distinctly, it was that one moment that guy pressed the enter key and it ends up killing him. His penalty ends up being death in the end. So I don't know if that's that harsh in like Twitch chat or anything like that, but it is another thing just to think about, whether what you say.
It's just about glass houses,
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't throw stones, look, I wish sometimes, and this includes me, I wish I and many people would spend more time working on ourselves than spending all our time online, condemning others. It's like so easy, right? It's almost like entertainment at this point.
Yeah.
And I think that's dangerous. I do think it's dangerous. But it's it is what it is. Society, and there's until somebody develops a way to, like South Park, Denmark comes up with a way to identify all the things you've done on the internet, or if somebody develops technology to punch someone in the face through a monitor, this is what we're going to have to deal with. And so we're all just going to have to be responsible for ourselves and, choose what we do and what we don't do. And
Wait,
at
so
least
we gotta,
at least somebody's making a thing about it. At least somebody's like saying something about it, because I don't really know much besides like South Park maybe that's really making us like taking critical analysis of the anonymous nature of the internet and the no consequence
all right,
Wild West it is.
so we actually have a caller. So why don't we? When we take a caller, when we have a caller, we just gotta take them. So
Yeah, sure,
the Aura King wants to. We haven't had a caller in weeks, so the Aura King is joining us today. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Hey, no problem.
So
What's up, man? What's on your mind?
Yeah, what's on your mind? Black Mirror.
I have a
Oh,
You there?
hello.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm hearing the stream and
yeah.
Discord
Pause
at
the
same
stream.
time, so
Pause
I'm
the
gonna
stream.
pause the
Yeah,
stream.
there you go.
It's like on radio whenever somebody calls and they're like, turn off the radio. Turn off
Oh
the radio.
yeah, it's like echoing. I'm like, wait, what am I hearing that's correctly timed?
Or it's like I'm hearing myself. This is bad. This is terrible.
Oh yeah, that's what I was fearing when I was just waiting here.
So
All
what's
right,
up,
yeah.
man?
So what's up, man?
Yeah, love your discussion. I just want to it's one thing I'm curious about. What do you fear that might happen to the series? Do you think it might get repetitive or anything like that? Like it'll become, say, like like what happens to most TV shows that are just now kind of repeating themselves, or just kind of get bland over time.
That usually happens if they go past 6 seasons. That's like kind of
6
like
seasons. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually after season 6. It's like stop it, or you're just gonna fucking hurt yourself. Like it happened to The Office, it happened to Scrubs, like it happened to Friends, like all of them.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that's true.
With this show, it's a little bit different because there's no continuity. Like it's all like it's an anthology series. So I think they could, as long as they kept the writing team and they kept being clever with it, they could go on for years and years and years doing this, and it would be awesome.
And there's not too many episodes per season too, so it's not, like 6 seasons for this series is like not even 40 episodes,
Take
right?
time with each episode and give them like care and everything.
Yeah.
I think I get what you're saying though. We're already starting to see like a little overlapping. We're already starting to see some things that are sort of comparable, or like we were talking about, like the first episode of season 3, with the girl being kind of comparable to the American Idol episode, right? We already kind of see that. I get what you're talking about, and what I'm hoping is the show's been good enough and clever enough to make most episodes, close to all of their episodes, pretty different and unique, and kind of give it its own flavor. So I feel good about it because I feel like the show is in good hands, like just direction wise. And especially now budget wise, because Netflix has picked it up and it's got a much broader budget, and they can do a lot more things with it. But I totally understand the sentiment of what you're saying, that at what point are we just getting a regurgitated episode of the message that we got from that episode, just in a different way, and I think there is a little bit of a fear for me, but I think I'm overall optimistic about the direction of the show, just simply because it's done so well so far in 3 seasons, and it kind of has its own, it does the episodic thing where it's not a continuation, it's just every standalone thing. That's really difficult to do, but they're different directors too. I don't know.
I mean, they're standard. They're vignettes.
Saying, but
they're totally vignettes, right? So
yeah,
I think my prediction is that it's going to be that 6-year. As much as like this episode doesn't have as many, like I just said that it doesn't have as many episodes, but kind of thinking through it, I'm trying to think of some very popular themes they haven't touched on, or popular technologies they haven't touched on, and
washing machines
killing people. But like Skynet and stuff like that. I don't know. I actually think maybe 6 seasons actually will be roughly a limit for this type of series. At least having super original content. Maybe after 6 seasons there just won't be as much original content, but the quality of which we've seen so far, I think around 6 seasons is probably realistic. That's still a lot, guys. That's like, that's
I mean, obviously everything has to come to an end, right?
Yeah.
Even fun series and good ideas, and I'm sure we're gonna hit a season where everybody goes, "Wow, what a slump!" Like what a backward step.
It's like I've heard this stuff already, and it's like this is like season season X, episode X, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I trust that they'll come up with some more concepts. I trust that they can still surprise us.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be as easy, but I think that they're very capable of doing so. Anyways, what were you going to say, Art?
That's kind of like that's the whole thing I'm talking about. Like after like most shows now, like say like I guess the old CSI back when they were making all new episodes and stuff like that. I always felt like after a while, like it kind of got repetitive. Like it was new stuff, but it kind of got boring. Like after I'm just like
I can't do procedurals, man. They're fucking bum me out. I just like it's just like okay. Procedurals? Like CSI, Law and Order, fucking Criminal Minds, like where it's like every episode is a new case, but it's like every episode has the exact same structure to it. It's like, all right, a case happens, they investigate it, then maybe there's a twist here and there, and then boom, there's the ending. And it's just like I can't do that. I have ADD and I need like more momentum. I need actual plots to go somewhere and not just like stop and then start over basically with the same characters every
I mean, CSI could have gone on forever. But they decided to do like 5 different shows, so they just
NCIS,
it's like crazy.
NCIS New Orleans, NCIS,
right?
Like some suburb of Chicago.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's like they were just trying like instead of just like go and say like one crime in, let's say like.
Oh, I think you're cutting out. You guys there?
Died.
Yeah, I think his mic might have gone by there. Oh, there it is.
You there, man?
Stop fiddling with it.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Don't touch it. Don't touch anything.
Yeah.
Like I'm like I think it's like their way of like instead of just like doing a crime in say Philly to New York to DC, instead of like say like they don't have to go back and forth like to film each area. They can just stick to one area for that like say show.
Yeah, I mean there is some continuation to those shows, so it was just a way for them to cookie cut it, and from a business standpoint, totally get it. But from a creative standpoint, it just meant that there's going to be less seasons, and that overlap point is going to come much quicker when you're doing 5x the content that you could be doing just for a single series. So.
Like I watched the show on and off. Like I had no real. That was the only issue I had with the show, but I liked watching on and off. But like that's the one thing, like from what I heard, like you guys talk about Black Mirror in your last podcast of the first 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, this stuff it's very unique per episode. Yet I'm like one fear I have is like eventually they're gonna have to bring stuff back, or it's just gonna be repeated.
Well, even just technology. That's the point that I think is the biggest limitation. There's only so much technology that we've thought of, or we've seen, or seen other movies and TV shows even try to cover, and I feel like we're coming to that point. Maybe there's another full season's worth, maybe season and a half worth of remaining technology we haven't really talked about. So it's going to require them to come up with just very, very unique concepts. Not virtual reality, not online, social media type of technology, things that we don't necessarily have or haven't even thought about yet. And that's really challenging. That's when you have to get super creative, presenting some type of, new concept or technology that none of us have been, it's never been accepted in the past. It's going to be a totally new testing ground. Yeah.
Yeah. It's true.
Okay. Well, anyways, thanks for the question, man. I appreciate you calling in. It's always good to hear that our listeners have voices too.
Definitely.
Yeah, and apparently I'm so far I think the only person who's actually commented on your podcast on iTunes.
Yeah, so what's up with that, guys? Well, what's up with that? What's up with that? Thank you so much for doing that working.
Seriously, when I tell you to listen to iTunes.
Yeah, Diction, I've listened to at least every podcast at least twice because I enjoy just hearing like all your ideas, your views, and your opinions on the stuff.
Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I'm not joking. I have them saved to my iPhone, so I like when I'm walking to school or to work, I'll listen to them.
Awesome. That's
fucking
awesome,
dude.
Man. That's
exactly.
Great. And now you're part of it, dude. You're part of the show. So
you can listen to yourself.
You can listen to yourself. You can experience the awkwardness of all of us the first time we heard ourselves.
Honestly, thanks for the kind words, Art. That's why we do this show, is because we think it's got a very unique flavor to it that I think some people will latch onto, and you're one of those people, and that means a lot to us. That's why we create the content. So
yeah, like you're like I don't know if it's for me or for everyone, but one thing I just like about like the entire discussion, not just like the shows, like half of the shows you talk about I've never seen, and I just like listen to. I am honest. I've never seen like most of the shows like BoJack Horseman, Preacher.
No, but that's awesome. That's that.
Yeah, like
you know,
it's just
you're
hearing your
exposing-
conversation. Like you're open about your discussions, your opinions. Like the Preacher, Ello, I'll admit you were biased, but you were honest and you were hear like different opinions, different views, while giving your reasoning for why you were like biased on the Preacher, like because of the comic book and your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
There was a lot that went into that. So
Yeah, like you had a lot going into that, so that was your reasoning, and I honestly acknowledge that. I'm like, at least you were open, saying like, I don't want to hear this stuff. I don't want to hear this stuff.
Well,
Right.
listen,
Awesome.
I will give you my opinion. That I am not good at a lot
You
in
don't
life.
have to worry
okay?
about that.
But
You
I
don't have
will
to worry
always
about
give
that.
you my opinion, and not everybody will always agree with it, but I will give it to you. So no, I appreciate. I'm just glad people are enjoying the content. So
Yeah.
we really appreciate it, and it means a lot to us. That it means a lot to you, and that's what's so great about this. That's what entertainment is supposed to be. We get something, you get something, and at the end of the day, you know, maybe we're a little better for it. Maybe not, but at least we waste, you know, at least we used an hour of our life and had a little fun. You know?
It's out there. It's forever on YouTube. So, you know, you can always find it if somebody ends up, liking an episode, you can go back and watch all the other episodes because we've done a lot of good ones. Like, the Aura King has been mentioning some of the few that we've done with Preacher and BoJack.
And I would love to keep stroking our cocks, but I'm
Yes,
so excited. I am so excited to introduce the next show.
Yes, yeah. So why don't we do that?
Okay,
But
I think I've been on long enough.
no,
I
thanks
love
so
you,
much,
Art.
though.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, you're awesome,
Yeah.
No problem. Have a good day, guys.
All right, you too. All right, next week. So this is what we do on the show. If you're tuning in for the first time, what we do is we talk about Black Mirror this week, and then we give you guys homework for the next week so that you guys can possibly join in like the Aura King. And actually just Twitch chat. Twitch chat's always this been awesome the entire time. And next week we are doing surprise.
Yeah,
Is this really
huge
a surprise? Are we really surprised?
Who's got
we're
this
doing
shit coming?
I mean, how can we not? I mean,
Of
I don't want
course,
to. I don't want to
man.
say
I mean-
anything before we get into it, but I mean, so I will say that some weeks I'm more excited than others for the things that we go into, and I have the most normal boner about this.
Normal boner. Okay.
Yeah, it's like so. I am. My body is ready. My body is ready, and I hope you guys are also ready too, because this is what I'll say preliminary. This is this is what I consider to be one of the best shows on television that's come out recently, and it's really. I mean, I won't get into why I like it, but I don't want to give away too much before we actually get into it. But I will say that if there was a week that you wanted to watch something that we were going to talk about, god damn, this is the one. Like, just
And
go
all the episodes
watch
are out. If you haven't been caught up and
Yeah.
you have HBO Go, you can fucking binge them for the next week and get
All right,
caught
so
up with us.
I have not watched a single episode of Westworld because I knew we were going to do it. So I wanted to save the entire season so I could literally watch them all like back to back to back, just in one sitting or a few sittings or whatnot. So I've been dying for us to finally do it so I could finally watch Westworld and see what everybody's been hyped and loving about it. So I've got grade A boner, okay, Ello? You might have normal boner. I've got grade A boner because I've been missing out all these weeks now, and I can finally watch it. So
So for those of you who are looking to watch this show, for those of you who don't know, just to give you some information, HBO is what it is on HBO Go. And if you are, like Monkey just said in the chat, if you're an Amazon Prime, if you have Amazon Prime, which I know a lot of you guys do, you can actually sign up for a free month of HBO. Thanks, Jim. You can actually sign up for a free month of HBO through that. So if you were like, I really want to watch this, but I don't have the money to get HBO Go, there you go. You got a free way of signing up. Just remember, like with anything that you sign up for a month or a week or whatever, and it's like a free trial, as soon as you sign up for it, cancel your credit card if you don't want it to auto charge you. So go ahead and get your free month and then cut the fuck out. So
you can just like unsubscribe. You don't have to cancel your credit card.
No, not cancel. I'm sorry, not cancel your credit. I cancel
Oh
your
God, I was like,
subscription.
geez.
No. I don't
I
mean
mean,
like.
I said format the hard drive. I didn't
mean.
mean like.
No, don't cancel your credit. What I meant is,
Oh,
cancel your subscription so you don't get charged on your credit.
Right.
Or cancel your credit card. Do that.
I would.
Are you a prepper? Are you you want to stick it to the man?
Exactly.
Anyways, but it's gonna be a really, I think it's gonna be a really good episode. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun, and it's going to go in a lot of different directions because there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
So, we could honestly spend a couple of weeks on this.
On just Westworld, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah.
How many episodes are there? Is there 10?
10.
Okay.
But the last episode is like 2 hours. So
okay,
it's
so like
a
11
little,
basically. Okay.
But it goes kind of, it's kind of in line with the things that we're talking about with Black Mirror. There's a lot of that kind of discussion. But we'll save it.
Yep, definitely save it. All right, well, we're going to wrap up, guys. It's been fantastic episodes. Been fantastic 2 episodes, actually, talking about Black Mirror. So why don't we do some shout-outs? Diction, where can people find you?
Hi, you can find me at twitch.tv/eatmydiction1. Also, twitter.com/eatmydiction1.
2.
I play lots of different games, and I'll be playing lots of different games later today and tomorrow.
And if you have not seen the GIF of him in a Batman cape around in his office, go follow his Twitter right now because it's freaking hilarious. I was laughing my ass off at it today.
I forget what video that's from. It's an old one. It's an old video.
Yeah, that shit was funny.
Definitely great. Hello, where can people find you besides here?
Yeah, definitely not here. Anyways, I'm Ellohime. You guys, if you're on the channel, you've probably been here before. You can find me streaming at like really early in the morning. I started at like 4 a.m. this morning and streamed Path of Exile all morning until the show, which was great. All of my social media is pretty much on this channel. So if you want to follow me on Twitter or any of that crap, you have all that available to you. And I'll be streaming tomorrow morning. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So.
Hello, have you played Gang Beasts yet?
Oh yeah, dude.
Oh my god, that game is so awesome. Dude.
Me and Bikeman got the online, and we went nuts. And that is one of my top 5, maybe top 3 favorite streams of all time. It was just
so
laughs
awesome.
and laughs and laughs.
Oh my God.
I literally almost vomited. I was laughing so hard. Like my stomach muscles were sore the next day. It was so fun. Yeah, I love Gang Beasts. It's ridiculous.
Oh God, yeah.
So tell us about you, Chan, man. Where can we find you?
You can find me. My Twitch channel is twitch.tv/ChanManV. Same with my Twitter. Twitter.com/ChanManV and YouTube also. You can find all the VODs for this show on YouTube.com/ChanManV. Do other shows too for Overwatch and Hearthstone. Actually, my Hearthstone one's coming up in an hour. So if you are a Hearthstone player and want to watch Value Town, you can tune into my Twitch channel and check that out. But other than that, guys, I think that's going to be it for this week. So next week, Westworld. But for Eat My Diction, Ellohime, and myself, ChanManV, we'll see you next week.
Take it easy.
Later.